Hey guys, Enigmatic Mr. L here. Welcome to a video where I'm going to attempt to give every single fighter in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate an Echo Fighter. So a few rules for the challenge. No skips, no exceptions, even the ones that are ridiculously hard to come up with. I'm going to put some attempt forward at trying it. Echoes need to have a similar build to their source character. This is, I think, a big reason why Pichu, for example, isn't classified as an Echo Fighter to Pikachu, Young Link to Link. Their builds and proportions are different. Might need to stretch that a little bit for some of them, but it's close enough. Thinking it works. Just Simon being a bit more muscle than Richter, and Princess Peach, Princess Daisy being a little difference in height. Thirdly, Echoes need to have similar moves and abilities to the source character, or at least for the most part. If there's only like one or two moves that they can't do that their source character can, then you have to change those one or two moves, which won't require much development time. Also, beware of mild to major spoilers. I'll do my best to try to gloss over things and not go into too many details, but you have been warned. So, starting off the list, we have Mario. Uh, Multiple options you could go here. A lot of people suggest Shadow Mario. You could go with the Cosmic Spirit Mario from the Mario Galaxy games. I decided to go with Gold Mario. And the difference between him and Mario would be Gold Mario is stronger, he's faster, he has better recovery, he's just overall better. So you might be thinking, well, what's the downside then to balance him out? And really, there isn't one. This is the inverse of a joke character. Instead of you're playing with your friend who's not as good at Smash Bros as you are, instead of intentionally limiting yourself, for example, in Melee playing as Pichu, you can play as whoever you want. Just your friend just play as Gold Mario. Helps even the playing field a bit. Although, as a side effect of this, Gold Mario would not be available to play in online matches. So with Donkey Kong, I see many people suggest Funky Kong, and I think this one works pretty well. Just change, his taunts and maybe give him like a surfboard final smash. Link, multiple options we could go with, but I decided to go with Hylia's chosen hero, aka the Skyward Sword Link. I think this is a pretty important game in terms of like Zelda lore, the first one, and this Link could play closer to his Super Smash Bros. 4 incarnation. Samus already has Dark Samus. For Yoshi, I decided to go with Birdo. She can pretty much do most of the things Yoshi can. She's associated with eggs, just pink eggs. The only thing Yoshi does that Birdo doesn't is the inhale ability, where sucks up an enemy with his tongue, which I think you'd place that with just an egg shooting ability from its mouth, a la American Super Mario Brothers 2, and I think it would work pretty well. And we've got Kirby, who I decided to go with Gooey, being that he has similar origins and properties as Kirby and was designed to be a player 2 to Kirby. The only thing really wouldn't work would be the inhale ability, but honestly, in this case, I think it would be easier to just give an entirely new move than it would be to try to copy that one, seeing as how then you'd have to give Gooey all these different hats and moves and alternate abilities. So just replace that with some sort of tongue whip attack. And since he doesn't have feet, those attacks would have shorter range, but they'd have more power to compensate. Then we got Fox McCloud. Given how most of his moveset kind of was originally made up anyway, I decided to go with another Star Fox team member, Slippy Toad, who I think would be fun to play as or fun just to beat up. This idea was actually considered back in Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 64, but because they have different hitboxes and such, it wouldn't work to have it as an alternate costume. But speaking of hitboxes, that would be about it, I think, in terms of differences, just slightly different hitboxes and hurt boxes. Pikachu, we've seen numerous Pikachu clones, quote unquote, clones throughout the series. I think we could just use one of them as a echo for Pikachu, and I decided to go with Morpeko to get some Gen 8 representation. I think half of his alts could be his standard hungry form, the other could be his full form, but there wouldn't be any sort of gameplay differences between them. Then for Luigi, I know many people have suggested Gooigi, who could copy all of Luigi's abilities almost perfectly. And that's a really good idea, but instead I had to go with basically the icon for my channel in Mr. L, his brainwashed alter identity in Super Paper Mario. First, they just need a big aesthetic change to source material, bring him into 3D, but we've seen some aesthetic changes before, such as Pit being introduced in Brawl, and previously Mr. Game & Watch as a character didn't exist. He's just an amalgamation of all the Game & Watches, so be Mr. L, but in 3D. In addition to flashier taunts, he wouldn't have the tether grab, since he's not really associated with the vacuum cleaner. He just have the grabs of Luigi pre-ultimate. And then for his final smash, you can just bring in Robot. Then we got Ness. A good idea I've seen as an Echo Fighter for Ness would be Paula, seeing as how most of the abilities Ness uses in Super Smash Bros. Are actually originally from Paula. And that's a good idea, but instead I decided to go with Ninten, the protagonist of Earthbound Beginnings, aka Mother 1. Be a bit of an untraditional Echo Fighter in that, yes, it wouldn't take much time to develop, but instead it would borrow from several characters. Borrowing heavily from the Ice Climbers, just instead of wielding a hammer, he would wield a baseball bat. He would use Mewtwo's down specials as his neutral special, just called Brain Shock. And then his up special, just call it it would be a different name. Just have that be a teleport. Or I think called like Dimensional Warp or something like that. And then you could have a Young Link side special using a boomerang. For Captain Falcon, I decided to go with the literal Captain Falcon clone in Blood Falcon, who I know is one of Captain Falcon's alts already, but I think they could just do what they did with Pit and Dark Pit, make one of Captain Falcon's alts slightly resemble Blood Falcon, and then one of Blood Falcon's alts resemble the original Captain Falcon. I don't think there'd be too many gameplay differences between them, just given the health of the series. Just hasn't seen a new game in like over 15 years now. For Jigglypuff, I decided to go with Igglypuff. The size is a little bit different, but I think it's not too much of a stretch, so it could work. With that smaller size, you'd have less range, but it would be a little quicker and have smaller hitbox, which would, I think, benefit Jigglypuff's poor mobility on the ground. It's very slow dash speed. Princess Peach already has Princess Daisy. For Bowser, I think the natural choice here is going to be Dry Bowser. And I'm thinking for differences, in reference to the fact that Dry Bowser has had most of his muscle and his fat melted away by lava, he would be much lighter. Not even just going from less heavy, he wouldn't even be heavy at all. He could be a lightweight. He's nothing but not even skin and bones, just bones. And he would lose his passive armor. But to make up for that, he would be much, much stronger. So he's the ultimate glass cannon. One way or another, matches with Dry Bowser would end quickly. Then we got the Ice Climbers, who there really isn't anyone else in their series who could do all of their actions and moves. We'd have to go outside series, which I tried to avoid doing, but hey, if you look at Melee's Birthplace of Clones, they had Ganondorf as Captain Falcon clone, so all else fails, just bring in the baby Mario brothers. You just need to quote-unquote Mario-ize their attacks. What I mean by that is like maybe their neutral special gets replaced with the Freezy from the Mario Brothers games. Maybe their up special as their tether grab. They could just use a chain chomp. Also, they would be harder to separate than the Ice Climbers, but would be weaker overall, so they'd be a bit easier to use, kind of like Lucina to Marth. For Sheik, another member of the Sheikah tribe, I decided to go with Impa, a major character in Legend of Zelda series. And seeing as how much of Sheikah's standard moveset was just made up in Melee, I think Impa could use it just fine. Impa would just be a less extreme version of Sheik. She'd be a bit slower, but heavier. She'd be better at KOing, but worse at racking up combos. Then we got Zelda, seeing as how this Zelda is heavily based on Link to the Past and A Link Between Worlds. I decided to go with Hilda from A Link Between Worlds. I think she could use her staff in a few of her attacks, namely her down special, because while it is a bit of a stretch for this Zelda version of Zelda to use the Phantom Guards, even though that's from Spirit Tracks, it makes enough sense. That Zelda's amalgamation of different Zeldas. Hilda really wouldn't work, so what I see doing is maybe her down special be similar to Byleth, just to swing her staff both ways, just be faster but not as strong. Then for Final Smash, she can unleash Yuga Ganon. For Dr. Mario, I think the best choice would be Dr. Luigi, and he could be sort of a blend between Dr. Mario and Ultimate, but a bit of how Luigi was in Melee, such as maybe give him his dash attack. Since you would shoot L-shaped pills, they'd move a bit slower, but they're larger and harder to dodge. For Pichu, I'm again going with Pikachu clones. I decided to go with Plusle and Minin, and they would just be alts, kind of like how Olimar and Alph are in the game. They wouldn't hurt themselves because I don't think their Pokédex entry states they startle themselves using electricity. But as a side effect, it's not as strong. They're a bit of a safer pick than Pichu, not as much as a Glass Cannon. For Falco, again, rounding out the Star Fox Quartet members, I decided to bring in Peppy Hare to bring them all in. He basically played like most resemble Fox in Melee, since Falco was, or not Fox in Melee, Falco in Melee, since Falco was heavily decloned from Melee to Brawl, such as maybe you could have his down special not shoot out. It also fits since Falco jumps high and rabbits are known for jumping high. Marth already has Lucina. Young Link, I think you could bring in Ravio from Link Between Worlds. And while he doesn't use the weapons outright in the game, he does sell Link the weapons that he uses, so I don't think it'd be too much of a stretch to see Ravio using them. Ganondorf, I decided to go with Demise from Skyward Sword. I think he could just have electrical-based attacks, because neutral special instead of being like the Warlock Punch, he could just shoot an electrical beam, and then unleash prison for his final smash. Mewtwo is a difficult choice. There are not many Pokemon that have the same abilities and shape as Mewtwo. Obviously, the first choice coming on is Mew, but their build is too different. I have seen suggested for Gygas, who in Earthbound Beginnings does somewhat resemble Mewtwo, but I try to avoid going outside a series if possible. So I decided to go with Shadow Mewtwo from Pokemon Tekken, the spin-off side game. And yes, it's not developed by Game Freak, but it is developed by Bandai Namco, who also developed Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS and Ultimate. So I don't think there'd be too much legal issues preventing from getting him in. Roy already has Chrom. Mr. Game & Watch is a very tricky one, but in the end, I decided to go with 9Volt, who, as being a Nintendo fanboy and has played Game & Watch games before, I think it would make enough sense for him to be mimicking Game & Watch's actions. The only thing that would be a bit too much of a stretch would be 9Volt's turn into an octopus. So I think for his final smash, you could just bring in his mom, the angry 5Volt, for a cinematic final smash. Meta Knight has a clear pick, I think, in Galactonite, who, again, Meta Knight already has a Galactonite alt, but I think this could work. I think maybe you could give Galactonite a shield to block projectiles like Hero and the Lynx, but then I'm not sure what sort of downside you would give to compensate for that, or to help balance it out. And yes, he does use a lance instead of a sword, but he uses it like a sword, so I think it could work. Pit already has Dark Pit. Zero Suit Samus, I chose Gandrelda. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm not too familiar with the Metroid series, but I think this is the closest example I could find to a Zero Suit Samus Echo. Being a shapeshifter, she could stretch her arms for the whip attacks that should paralyze her directly out of her hands, then have some sort of terrifying transformation for her final smash. For Wario, I decided to go with Dr. Krygor, also from the WarioWare games. I think the size difference is enough, or close enough, that it wouldn't be too much of a stretch. It could still work. You just need to make a few changes. Have a jetpack down special with a set power length. Since, yes, Dr. Krygor is known for having stomach problems, I think farting would just be too weird. And to provide a reasonable gameplay balance, you wouldn't have the all-powerful of a fully charged Wario Waft, but you don't have to wait as long to use your down special. His up special could be his quote-unquote swimming from the newest WarioWare game, Get It Together, just move it around for a bit with the head as a hurt box. And then instead of Wario Man for his final smash, you can just bring in his daughter Penny. Snake, there are multiple clones in the Metal Gear Solid franchise, and many people suggest Big Boss, the original Snake, which I think would definitely work, but the only Metal Gear game I'm even slightly familiar with is I've seen a Let's Play of Metal Gear Solid, so I decided to go with Liquid Snake, since we'd have the battle of the dominant and recessive genes battling it out, even though Liquid Snake has the dominant genes, but he's a blonde. I don't think they thought that plot twist through, but that's just me. For Ike, I've seen many people suggest the Black Knight, also from the Tellius games that Ike stars in, and I think that definitely could work. But for the sake of adding a bit more diversity across all Fire Emblem titles, I decided to go with Hector from Fire Emblem The Blazing Blade, and he'd basically be a more extreme version of Ike. Be stronger, heavier, maybe add in some passive armor, just slower. And since he uses an axe instead of a sword, his frontward attacks would have less horizontal range but more vertical, although that would be inverted for his upward strikes. Then, since he has three benefits heavier, passive armor, and stronger, and only one con I think his up special would have even worse recoveries than Ike. It would just be his Hector Copter to move him up a little bit, famous from when he gets the Armads in the final chapter. It just wouldn't move him very much to kind of help balance him out. Pokemon Trainer, you could really just choose anyone, a champion, a gym leader, as long as the Pokemon matched up. But I decided to go with the rival, more specifically the original rival Blue. And the three Pokemon I chose at being are Bulbasaur, Wartortle, and Dragonite. I would have really liked to keep all in the same, Kanto starters, but there really isn't another Pokemon that fully echoes Charizard. I think Dragonite is the closest it's going to be. And I think it makes enough sense that Blue would be the kind of person to show off that he caught a Dragonite. And to add extra rubbing salt in the wound, it could be a shiny Dragonite. I know Game Freak is kind of weird about letting Nintendo use their shiny versions of Pokemon in the Smash Bros. Games, but yeah, a man can dream. Gameplay differences, I think, pretty obvious here. Bulbasaur would trade in power for speed, while Wartortle and Dragonite would do the opposite. Diddy Kong, I think, has a very natural choice here in Dixie Kong. I know many people wanted her as her own unique character, and I can certainly see her being like a semi-clone, comparable to how Ken is to Ryu. But even if they don't go that route, at the very least, I just want to see a helicopter up special where she twirls her hair, and maybe a neutral special where she shoots bubblegum instead of peanuts. Lucas, I decided to go with the Masked Man. Sonic the Hedgehog has a few different options. We could go with Metal Sonic, or even some other hedgehogs such as Amy could mimic some of Sonic's abilities, but I decided to go with the most obvious pick and go with Shadow the Hedgehog. And I know Shadow has his own abilities, but and so do many fighters who are already Echo fighters. Like Daisy could have pulled from the spinoffs. Dark Pit could have used the other weapons in Kid Icarus Uprising. Ken is different from Ryu. Dark Samus has different abilities than Samus. The point of an Echo fighter isn't that they're exactly identical in every single way to the source character, just close enough that they could theoretically do the same attacks. Although I would like to see a few changes, maybe Shadow being slightly slower, although still definitely at the top near the top of the roster in terms of dash speed, but he does have slightly more strength. Give Mewtwo's up special as a chaos control and Wario's side special as a bike riding move. Then if they really want to give him a few unique attacks, I can see Chaos Spear for a neutral special and Chaos Blast as the final smash. Though even if they don't do that, I certainly see Super Shadow being the final smash and it would work well. I know some people say Shadow uses guns, but for the most part, I think they try to go away from that because of age ratings. There are exceptions like Joker, but I think he would work without guns. For King Dedede, I decided to go with a common Kirby enemy, Bonkers. His down special would have a fire effect, for better or for worse, depending on what the situation was. His side special would shoot nuts instead of Gordos. And then his final smash would be similar to Brawl DDD's, maybe just a bit more cinematic, where he swings his hammer if he hits the enemy or whoever you hit gets hit with a bombard parade of all the various Kirby enemies. Olimar, I decided to go with Alf, as Alf was considered at some point in Smash Brothers Wii U and 3DS to be a clone. It just never went through, but I think now could be the time to shine. Change I can see make is that he just has rock Pikmin instead of purple Pikmin. Lucario, I decided to go with Zeraora from the Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon games. And yes, he's an electrical type, so as an effect, he would be using electrical based attacks. But I think the biggest gameplay change, for better and for worse, to fit different players' playstyles is he would have a fixed power level. Meaning that when they're both at zero damage, Zeraora is stronger than Lucario, but they're both at over like 100 damage, Lucario is stronger. Depending on what your play preferences is, you might prefer one over the other. R.O.B is a very tricky case, but in the end, I decided to go with the Ancient Minister from the Subspace Emissary. Just have the arms be only visible in attacks like, the side special. And the only thing you would really need to change would be giving him a Subspace Bomb final smash. For Toon Link, I decided to go with Tetra, also from the Wind Waker games, and she could have a standard grab instead of a tether grab, no shield, but has slightly stronger projectiles to make up for that. Then her final smash could be a light arrow final smash, just like Zelda from Brawl. For Wolf, I decided to go with Panther Caroso, another member of Team Wolf, or later member of Team Wolf. He would be faster, heavier, but slightly weaker overall. Then for the Villager, we would need a character from before New Leaf, and that's when proportions were changed, be a bit taller and slimmer, and that's why Isabelle isn't classified as an Echo Fighter. And for that, I think what better choice would there be than Tom Nook, a very popular and iconic Animal Crossing character who I think many were surprised wasn't playable, instead was passed up by Villager. The only thing you would really need to change his moveset would be the final smash, which it would be weird to have Tom Nook summon Tom Nook. So instead of building a house, I think why not just build Nookingtons, the ultimate upgraded form of his shop in the Animal Crossing games. For Mega Man game, I know many people probably would be expecting Proto Man here, just maybe with a shield dash attack or something like that. But I decided to go with Mega Man Volnut from the Mega Man Legends games. You might be thinking, why? Well, it honestly doesn't really have to do much of how well he could or couldn't echo Mega Man. I just think if this did happen, the chances of us getting Mega Man Legends 3 would increase due to the notoriety of it, or getting more fame and recognition out there. Or at the very least, we might get Mega Man 1 and 2, re-released and remastered. So, is it going to happen? No, but again, a man can dream. For Wii Fit Trainer, I decided to go with the Ring Fit Trainee. The only thing you really need to add would be some fire effects. So it'd be just like how they cloned Roy out of Marth, just adding some fire effects. Rosalina and Luma, I decided to go with the Cosmic Spirit from Super Mario Galaxy 2, where if you fail a level too many times, this Cosmic Spirit will offer to complete the level for you. And instead of Luma, you could use not just any Luma, you could use Lubba, the pilot of the Mario ship in Super Mario Galaxy 2. And this would be the biggest differences between this and the standard Rosalina and Luma, as Lubba would have more HP and would be stronger, but it would have less speed since it's much heavier. Everyone would be able to travel into it, and it would take longer to revive each time. For Little Mac, I decided to go with Glass Joe to use a bit of like a joke character in the Punch-Out series, and I think this would be reflected in Smash, and just have him be a joke character, kind of like how Pichu was in Melee. In order to represent that, he does have one KO somehow, he has one win out of 100, he could just unleash critical hits at random in order to give him some sort of small benefit over Little Mac. The only problem with this is that Little Mac himself is widely considered to be a low-tier character. Maybe not joke, but he's already bad, so making Glass Joe just a bad version of a bad character might cause some problems, but I think this would be funny enough, and I think it would work. For Greninja, I decided to go with his pre-evolution Frogadier, and it would just be the standard style, faster, lighter, smaller, and slightly weaker. Now, the Mii Fighters you might think would be a really tough one, or just skip it since no one else can do what the Miis can. Like how do you make an Echo Fighter for an Avatar character? Well, it takes an Avatar character to match an Avatar character. So they could just go with the avatars from the Nintendo Switch Sports games, which weren't the best received at the time of release, but maybe getting more fame recognition in Smash might help them out a bit. Palutena, you could go with Veridi from Kid Icarus Uprising, but instead I decided to go with a character that's been around longer and's had more time in the sun. Well, sort of, maybe in time in the underworld, to go with Medusa from the Kid Icarus series. In addition to having a dark effect for money-ever attacks, she could have a down special as a counter that just freezes opponents. Not ice freezes, but temporarily stuns them so they can't move. And then a cinematic final smash that involves her true hideous form. Pac-Man has a very obvious choice, Mrs. Pac-Man, who I don't see this happening anytime soon just because of, I think, legal reasons where Mrs. Pac-Man is, but that won't stop me and some other fans from wanting it. I think it would be a good idea. For Robin, I decided to once again diversify across all Fire Emblem history and go with Celica from Fire Emblem Gaiden and its remake, Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia. Now, in Valentia, weapons don't break. They have infinite durability. And I think Celica's moveset could reflect this. Her magic spells, or specials, she could have unlimited use of them, but they deal slight recoil damage, which again would fit in perfectly with how mechanics are in Gaiden and Echoes, or rather just Valentia, because in that game, when mages cast magic spells, they actually do slight damage to their HP. Then her sword, the beloved Sophia, which is like her ultimate weapon, and Smash tends to give characters the ultimate weapon. It could have a power level in between Robin's Levin sword. It's not as strong, but it's more powerful than the bronze sword. I'm thinking just below the Levin sword. She'd also be lighter and faster. Instead of teaming up with Chrom, she could team up with her partner Alm for the final smash. For Shulk, I decided to go with one of Shulk's party members, Dunban, who's also a weird wielder of the Banado, even if it is to his detriment, costing the use of one of his arms. And Smash could reflect that. He would be more powerful to reflect the fact that he has more experience, but he would take recoil damage, kind of like Pichu. For his final smash, he could team up with some of Shulk's other party members, such as Mila or Ryan. There's also Charla, but from my understanding of the Xenoblade fan base, I think the reception of her, she's not bad. She's just kind of the least good or least popular character. For Bowser Jr., I decided to go with Baby Bowser. And the only thing that would really need to change would be the final smash. And the funny thing is, in doing this, the Echo Fighter would make more sense. Since, yes, Bowser Jr. changing into Shadow Mario makes sense, but the Koopalings it doesn't. So for Baby Bowser, I would just have him have a final smash that's similar to his adult form, in a reference to the ending of Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. Then we have Duck Hunt, and oh boy, this is probably the hardest character to come up with an Echo Fighter for. I decided to go with Yundo Dog and Yamamura from Mario Maker games and Mario Paint. And I think just what you need to do is just, again, like you did with the Baby Mario Brothers, just Mario-wise their attacks. Like instead of, kicking a can down for their down special, it could just be a pixelated bomb. And maybe for their final smash, you could have them erase the stage. Ryu already has Ken. Cloud could have Zack Fair. And if I played more than a few hours of Final Fantasy VII, I might be able to tell you more about why this fits and what the gameplay differences can be, but I haven't, so I'm just going to trust other people's judgment on this. Corrin is a bit of a tricky one, since we have characters that transform into dragon and use swords, but rarely both. I decided to go with her child, Kana. And I think the size difference, you could get away with it, because yes, while it is a child, their in-game models aren't really that different in size. Just having them be smaller and faster with a bit less range and weight. Bayonetta, never played a Bayonetta game, but I think she has a friend slash rival love interest, and Jean or Jean. Both Umbra witches, I think, could perfectly mimic Bayonetta's moveset. But the Inkling has an obvious choice here. In fact, many people were surprised the Octolings didn't make it into Smash Ultimate as Echo Fighters. I think it's because they only really started to take off in popularity around the same time the Octo expansion DLC for Splatoon 2, and by that point it's too late to add them, even as Echo Fighters. My idea for Echo Fighters, half would be the friendly kind, seeing like Octo expansion, and the other half could be enemies. And referencing Octo expansion's difficulty and their enemy status, their attacks would be more powerful, but they would consume more ink. They would also need different colors to separate themselves from the Inklings, as it would be confusing having an Inkling and Octoling both using, say, blue, for instance. They might have to go with some more outlandish or not as commonly picked colors. Ridley has all sorts of clones and revivals and different versions of himself, but since we already have Meta Ridley, why not go with a full robotic one, go with Mecha Ridley? The only real difference here would be he's heavier but a bit slower. And I think this would make more sense because as it stands, Ridley, despite being this giant dragon thing, isn't even as heavy as characters like Terry Bogard or Bowser Jr. Simon Belmont already has Richter Belmont. King K. Rool, we could go with Lord Frederick from the Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze game. I haven't played it, but I think this could work. He was kind of a nod to King K. Rool, their own version of it. You just need to basically give him some ice properties. Maybe his neutral special, he can't shoot it back up, but it can freeze opponents. His down special could be a more standard counter. as it can't break, but it also doesn't grant passive armor. Maybe if they want to go all the way, it could just freeze opponents instead of doing damage, or maybe just slight damage from freezing them. Then for its final smash, just cinematic Ice Dragon. Isabelle, I think it would work well. Digby could work. That is her twin brother. That probably work better than who I chose, but I went with a more iconic, famous Animal Crossing character as KK Slider. I think would please a lot of fans. I think most of the things Isabelle does, KK could do as well. Incineroar, despite being a fire type, doesn't use many fire type moves. And those few fire effects, they could either keep them or just remove them. If I went with Machamp, since he can learn Fire Punch. I think he has a similar build to Incineroar. The only problem it would be the extra arms. What I'm envisioning is just the lower arms always stayed down, except in the all-out pummeling Final Smash. Piranha Plant, I've seen suggestions for a Fire Piranha Plant from Mario Tennis Aces, being like a joke echo for a joke character. And while that would be pretty funny, I decided to go with Chain Chomp, another Mario enemy. They would just need to change a few things. Now, remember in the Super Mario 64 level, where if you free the Chain Chomp, it'll give you a star? Well, it still gives you a star with his neutral special, but it's an object that hurts you. Then for his side special, instead of shooting poisonous gas, he could just entirely move his entire body forward, similar to Pac-Man's. His down special would attack enemies from far while staying in place, and his side special would close the distance. It's a bit of a stretch, but since Piranha Plant's already a bit of a joke, I think this could work. For the Joker, I originally considered going with previous Persona games, such as maybe you, the protagonist from Persona 4, who can also use multiple personas. But then I realized in-game, Joker only uses Arsene, so it could be any one of his party members, but I think the one that would be most fitting would be Crow, who uses a similar weapon type to Joker. And given some events that happen late game involving his ability to lower defense and raise attacks, I think the best way to reflect this in his moveset would be he's weaker without his persona, in this case Robin Hood, but he's stronger with his persona. Since he uses a rapier rather than a dagger, he'd have more range, but it could have a bit more cooldown. His final Smash Showtime, it would just be maybe slightly modified, since in that one he teams up with Joker. This one, do you think he could just do it solo? Just use that cinematic final smash in his Loki outfit. Hero already encompasses many different protagonists throughout the Dragon Quest history, but seeing as how the protagonist Dragon Quest 3 could be male or female, I think we could reference this by just having the heroine, and this could also expand the representation by having the protagonist, say, from this case, not Fire Emblem, Dragon Quest 9. Add more representation both across Dragon Quest history and in terms of male and female diversity. Banjo and Kazooie is another tricky one. It's funny that they were actually suggested as an echo for Duck Hunt before they got it in. But I decided to go with Jinjo, who is playable in some of the multiplayer modes of Banjo and Kazooie. And you might be thinking, well, what does Jinjo do when he uses the attacks that Kazooie uses? Well, he just summons another Kazooie. I think it'd be silly, but I think it could work. Just basically, I think a good gameplay difference between them would be they have the unlimited use of the Wonder Wing, but it does not grant invincibility. For Terry, I've seen suggestions for his brother Andy Bogard, although they have different fighting styles, and also his adopted son Rock Howard. And I think that second one could definitely work, but I just think it would be funny to add in Cutie Terry, the literal 63 version of Terry. Don't know if they would get it in because of age ratings, but I still think it would be funny to see. Byleth, I went through a few considerations using characters from Fire Emblem Three Houses. I consider Sophis, but too small. Nemesis, maybe a bit too bulkier. There's Rhea, I'm not sure how well that would work. But then I decided if you just change their weapons not to the hero's relic, just standard sword, axe, bow, and maybe a whip, I think Anna could work quite well, since she's been around since more than any other Fire Emblem character. She's been in more games. I think this would work well. Just have her be faster, a bit lighter, have her attacks be slightly weaker, but can unleash critical hits at random, in reference to her +5 luck ability in Fire Emblem Three Houses. Then her Final Smash could be very similar to the Dragon Quest Final Smash, except it just teams up with multiple Annas across Fire Emblem history. For Min, you could go with a number of arms fighters. I decided to go with the other big uh, famous, other than Springman, I think is Ribbon Girl. She's on the box art, a lot of them. And ability wise, it's very simple. They already have built in ups and downs. Just get rid of Min's ability to kick flat projectiles, since Ribbon Girl can't do that, but in exchange, give her multiple jumps, since that's what Ribbon Girl can do. Steve, I decided to go with Alex. I think you just need to make some cosmetic changes, like their taunts, that sort of thing, since they can use all the same abilities, just separate them out as a full-on Echo Fighter. And hey, maybe with this way, we can Alex can keep the victory animation where she just eats a steak and then just puts it down right in front of her, and it wouldn't look as disturbing. Sephiroth, again, I've never finished Final Fantasy VII, but I heard a suggestion for Magus from Chrono Trigger, another game I'm not too familiar with, but they're both Square Enix properties, villains, long weapons. I think it could work. If someone knows more about either or both games, feel free to let me know. Pyra and Mithra, major spoilers for Xenoblade Chronicles 2 ahead, but I think a good idea would be Pneumonia. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Pneuma, which is what happens when they fuse together. And as a result of being fused together, the power could be more than Mithra but less than Pyra, and the speed could be more than Pyra but less than Mithra. Then you just need to give her some of the specials from each one, preferably the best one. So you can keep Pyra's up special and Mithra's side special. Then Pyra's side special becomes her neutral special, and Mithra's neutral special becomes her down special. Then our final smash can just be the Infinity Blade. Kazuya, I think a good Echo Fighter would be Jin Kazuma, who's his son, who also learns the Mishima fighting style and has the Devil Gene. He does unlearn it, I think, at the end of Tekken 3. So in reference to that, he could have a low poly model from Tekken 3. It'd be a nice little throwback, nice little Easter egg. Sora, I've never played a Kingdom Hearts game, which I know it has very convoluted lore. But I know that Sora's literal clone, or technically nobody, is Roxas, and I think that could work. And yeah, that's it. I did it. Some of them made more sense than others. Some of them had more differences than others, but gave an echo to every fighter. Thank you very much for watching. All comments are appreciated, and have a good day. Bye.